Yay.
Peace,
Um,
y'all.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to today's very special career AMA. I am so excited to have our guests. Well, actually, can you maybe stop screen sharing so we can see your face for a second?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, let's do that. Forgot we're sharing the screen here. Let's pull that off.
Yeah, it's a preview of what's to come. So yeah, I'm very excited to introduce Dyalekt Kushner and Andrea Ferrero from Pockets Change. And I'll let you guys kind of introduce yourself from here.
Yeah, hey, peace. I'm Dyalekt. I'm the director of pedagogy at Pockets Change. We do hip hop and finance with youth, and we talk to kids as young as 6 and as old as long as you're still learning, it's going to be okay. And we're here to change how finance is taught. A lot of times people talk about finance in terms of facts and figures, and you need to have this percentage of this thing. And when it comes to finance, you need to think of it more like your fitness and nutrition. There are a few standards that we all vaguely go about, but it's about you and your relationship with money. So what we want to talk about is we want to answer any questions that you have that are specific to what you have going on in your world. Don't be afraid to ask them because it's going to be related to what other people are worried about too.
Hey, everybody, excited to be here. So I'm Andrea Ferrero, and I'm the co-founder and executive director of Pockets Change. And like Dyalekt was sharing, we are changing the way finance is taught. We usually are traveling all over, but now we come to you through Zoom and live. And we really want to think about all the different ways that we can make money. We always share that our wants, our needs too, and that carries into our careers. So my job as being an executive director, I get to mix education, I get to mix business, I get to mix entrepreneurship and social justice and tech and bring that all together and work with colleagues all over the country and all over the world to do amazing things. And we want to ask and answer those kind of questions with you today about where can you take your career and how can you prioritize your wants and make those needs too.
Yeah, so we're going to throw up the slides real quick, and we're going to talk a little bit about some stuff about us and some of the things that y'all can do. And then after we get through that, then feel free to ask us things. Feel free to ask us things in any direction when it comes to talking about your finances, your saving, your spending, the career that you're trying to build. If we can answer that, we'll get to an answer about that. And if we can pull up some fun slides that have pictures of those things too for our visual learners, we got you back on that. So let's get going with the things that we got. I'm going to start with this. All right. So Pockets Change, us building financial resilience through hip hop pedagogy, talking about jobs and careers and all that kind of stuff. My name is Dyalekt because I'm a rapper. That's my discipline. That's the thing that I do. And being someone who's had a career in the arts, it led me to education and led me specifically to finance education because one, while it's cool to, do a song for drunk people jumping up and down in a nightclub, I really found that it was more important to me to be able to convey information in my style, in my discipline, making music with young people because they cared a lot more about the specifics of what we were saying. And the reason it led me to finance is no matter what population we're talking about, whether you come from a background where you've got a lot of money, whether you guys are immigrants, whether you come from poorer backgrounds, we all have a lot of issues and personal relationships with money that affect everything that has everything to do with everything we do. So when we're trying to get together our career and our plans for the future, we have to figure out what our relationship is with money. So the work that we do is with youth and with adults, young adults, I mean, really everybody we rock with, from K to 12 to college. We do staff and professional development with teachers. We do curriculum resources and support. So if your teachers need to learn about this too, feel free to talk to them as well. We're here to change the way that finance is taught by talking about finance. People don't really like to talk about money. So we want to make sure that we get beyond just budgeting to have real money conversations. Thinking about money is not the goal or our best friend or our worst enemy, but it's just a tool. It gets us what we want.
Yeah, and on that, during Summer Bridge, we have 10 money challenges running. So if you're part of Summer Bridge and you want to take any of these topics further, you can reach out to us through Mouse and through our emails. They'll be thrown up on the end, and we can share those money challenges for you to explore all the topics that we're talking about and take it further on your own.
Yeah. Pictures and bio stuff. Again, Andrea Ferrero. She's the co-founder, executive director. I'm the director of pedagogy. And let's get into this. I really love sharing this slide because this is how your expectations are about your career and often your expectations about money when the reality is very different, right? People tell you, you get good grades, then you're going to get into the right school, and then you get good grades there, and then it'll get you an internship, and then you're at the place, and then you're done, right? but in reality, it's a lot more different than that. And it's a lot more different than even the grammar that I put together. Wow, that's a terrible sentence. Luckily, we're not teaching English today. But the reality is that it's really messy. And the thing that we want you to think about is the big arrow at the end. Keep your eye on the thing that is important to you. The thing that you want will turn into the thing that you value. And the things that you value, you will begin changing your habits to make sure you can ascertain.
Yeah. And we really want you to know that, like, if you're having a bad day, that doesn't mean it has to turn into a bad week. If you're having a bad week, it doesn't have to mean a bad month. A bad month doesn't have to be a bad year. A bad year doesn't have to be a bad lifetime. Our careers, our money, it's a journey. So you keep that eye on that arrow and keep moving forward and know that the path is going to veer up and down and all over the place. And that's why we want to have opportunities like this, where we can come together, have conversations, learn together, and keep moving towards our arrow and where that's leading us.
Yeah, so a quick thing about what our philosophy is and why it's a little different. People talk about financial literacy, your ability to understand. We talk about financial resilience, our ability to overcome. A lot of people like to say, well, hey, if you just manage your money better, then you'll be rich. Well, you can't manage your money if you're not getting money. So we have to talk about the ways that we get money before we talk about managing it. And then talk about managing it that still keeps in alignment with the things that are important to us. If you have family that you want to take care of, if you have a scholarship that you want to set up for your hometown, that's perfectly fine for you to do that. That's something we need to put into our budgets rather than put off as a dream. So to do that, what I want you guys to do right now and at all times is find a money buddy. The thing about money is people call it the last taboo. Studies have shown that parents are more afraid to talk to their kids about money than they are about sex or drugs or terrorism. Maybe not all of those combined, but at least one of those things. So if we can break down the way that we talk about money, we'll do a better job of being able to get money. You know, there are contracts that actually state that if you talk about your salary, you can be fired. I was talking about how I come from the arts, right? I would book out a nightclub. I would throw some parties together. Do you know that the nightclub owners would tell me not to talk to the other musicians about how much I was getting paid, not to share that information with them? So I was getting lowballed. I was getting paid poorly, and I would just do that until I got frustrated, and then someone else would pick it up. You know that if I talked to the other musicians, if I talked to the other people working there, we could have made better wages and we could have done better things for all of ourselves. So just remember that when we're in this place and in these worlds of business, our peers are not necessarily our competition. They're our buddies, and they're the ones that will help us get things together. So today, and as we go through with our finances, find somebody that you can talk to. If it's someone you already trust, that's really great. If you need to talk to a brand new person, find someone online to talk to about it. Be vague about it. Don't share any numbers or passwords. Then we can do that too. So I want to ask you guys to start asking yourselves and talking to your money buddies, if you have them, what are the last 3 things you remember buying? Hey, Andrea, what are the last 3 things you remember buying?
Okay, so I was at the grocery store yesterday. So the last 3 things I bought were all in the same store. I got an orchid for my neighbor. It was her birthday last week. And then I got some bacon because I was really excited about egg bacon burritos. And and I got some Post-it sticky notes that are now on my desk right in front of me while we're chatting.
Okay, that's cool. Take another 10-ish seconds thinking about the last couple of things you bought. And now I want to get into talking about a really important thing, budgeting. I have to apologize to y'all. I hate budgeting. I know we're going to talk about budgeting, but I hate budgeting. Maggie, do you like budgeting?
No.
No, you don't like budgeting. Most of us don't like budgeting. If you like budgeting and you're watching right now, it's okay. You're not the crazy person or the freak. That's just the way that your brain works. And I appreciate it and wish that mine could work like yours. But I remember when I went and got myself a mint.com account and I went and put in all the stuff and here's my codes and all the stuff. And all right, now I've got a $200 grocery bill, and that's fine, right? And I go and get my groceries and I eat my food. And then at the end of the month, I look at it and it gives me a big red mark saying I did wrong. I spent $250 on my groceries. And I said, well, I'm going to spend $250 on my groceries because I'm hungry. So maybe this budget doesn't work. And I took the budget and I put it aside. A lot of times budgets feel restrictive because they tell us it's about what we need, right? What we need and not what we want. We were talking about how wants are needs too, and this is really illustrated in the way that we spend money. If we don't plan for the things that we want to spend our money on, we're still going to do it anyway. And since we didn't plan for it, that's going to make us go negative. So let's talk about what we value, what matters to us, what's important, our spending values. And one of the biggest pieces of financial advice that we've gotten here at Pockets Change is where you spend your money is a representation of what you value. In other words, you always put your money where your mouth is. Are you a sneaker fiend who always loves buying the new colorways? Well, that's fine. That's the things that are important to you. Those are the things that you value. If you love indie games and your whole thing is getting a Humble Bundle on Steam and then going and finding all the indie johns that you can, the little $1 ones, and if anyone's asking for more, you want to spend money on that, those are fine too. Those are things that are important to you. Those are things that are part of you. Those are the things that people tell you not to spend money on. And before people start telling you what you shouldn't spend money on, you should decide what you should spend money on. So we put together a little matrix for y'all. This is the spending values matrix. We didn't invent it. It's actually, if any of you are planning to be or are currently business majors, you'll see this as the urgent important matrix for productivity. But we think it works really well in terms of determining what actually matters to you. So we've got our 4 quadrants: the basics, the details, the nothings, and the yes. I'm probably talking too much. Andrea, tell us what we're doing with the basics here.
Yeah, so the basics are the things that we would generally think of as like needs, right? There are fixed expenses. They're the things you need to live and work. And they might be like my cell phone bill, right? That's in my basics. Groceries, clothes, phone, internet, all the stuff that's just going to get me by on the day to day, my rent. It's often the things that we don't even think about spending money on. Like when you asked me what were the last 3 things I spent money on, like I also wrote a check for one of my bills, but I wasn't even thinking about that until we had the slide come up. And then I'm like, oh yeah, internet, it's a thing that I use all the time. So those are our basics.
Good. You know, the thing about the basics is when we start making our budgets, a lot of times that's the thing that we just make and then we put to the side because everyone tells you, right? You should get your needs, and your needs are your bills, your clothes, your groceries, your internet, your phone, that's it. And you write it down and you look at it and then you get mad at yourself because that's not the only places you spend money. It's not possibly the only places that you spend money. At the very least, in terms of food, your groceries and all that, you're going to run out, or you're just going to decide that you want a piece of candy or something like that. So we take this, and what we suggest with folks is when you get your basics together, that's cool. Learn the number, check back every now and then, just in case they change the fees or if there's any other things added. But for the most part, once you get your basics and you get that number, you can leave that aside. And where you really want to spend your attention and energy are in the details. That's the one a little bit below. And this is the stuff where people are going to tell you all the time that you don't really need these things. These are the things that feed you, not physically, but emotionally. They make you feel like yourself. They are the clothes that make you look like the person you want to be. They are the games that you play to clear your headspace. They are the foods that fill you up and make you feel comforted. They're the foods that fill you up and make you feel like you've got energy. They are the things that people are going to tell you to feel guilty about. There's that whole book, you know, that whole like the avocado toast thing that you heard in the news, and like the lattes and the buying the coffee. There's actually a person, I'm not going to say their name because forget them, who has a whole best-selling book about if these kids today weren't buying all these coffees and these fancy brunches, then they would be like money and they'd save aside and the compound interest would make them grow rich. And it's like, shut up. It's not actually true. You know, as we're going to get into, to get a lot of money, we have to make a lot of money. But the money that we have, what's really important is that we figure out what we're able to save and what is important for us to spend money on. A student of ours once said, if you don't make a plan for your money, the money's going to make a plan for you. And I think that's a really important thing. When it comes to your details, I want you to ask yourself, when you eat out, is that something that really matters to you? Do you like going out to dinner or to lunch or hanging out with your friends? Is that an important thing that you do? The games that you play, are those things that you really love and really enjoy and they really feed you emotionally? Are these things that you really like to do? And it's okay if you're still guessing, because the thing about the details is the details can be a little confusing because you're not sure if these things are important to you, things that you love, things that you value, or if they're in the other box, the nothing, right? It can be the same things: eating out with friends, playing video games, buying candy, buying shoes, buying clothes, things like that. This is the place where when you look at your spending from your last month or the last couple of things that you bought, you look there and you're like, I bought Taco Bell 3 times. I don't even like Taco Bell. How did I buy Taco Bell? It's really difficult to figure out sometimes what are our details and what is a nothing. And the biggest thing that I've found is, do you remember it? Is it a good story? Is it something that you were going to, and it doesn't have to be like a big story, that's something that like is changing your life, and is, you know, a story that you will tell to help people out of their situation. I'll tell you a thing I spent money on. I love telling this story. So I was in San Diego, California, and I found a taco spot called Lucha Libre Taco Stop. I think Lucha Libre Gourmet Taco Shop. They were a Mexican wrestling themed burrito place, and they had like masks on the walls and championship belts, and they had this promotion that if you ate all of their new menu, the whole thing, they would give you a medal that let you skip the line. Now, what I didn't tell you about this place is they're mad popular, so they have a line around the corner at their spot. So I was there for a 3-day conference, and in those 3 days I spent $58 on burritos. I ate everything on their new menu. I got the medal. I don't even live in San Diego. I haven't even been back to San Diego since then to use my medal to skip in line. But I think it was kind of a fun story, and it only was a 1-minute story. It wasn't that consequential, but that's fine. That was okay money that I spent. The things that feed you emotionally are also going to grow and change. My wife used to work for a business that was helping her learn what she needed to do before she started her own business. And when she was working at this 9-to-5 job, one thing she told me, every week she needed to go get manicures. It was just something, self-care, feel like herself, feel like she was important, feel like she was in charge, something like that, that she needed to do. And the day that she quit her job and stopped working for someone else and started working for herself, she realized she didn't need the manicures and she wanted to spend the money elsewhere. So these things are the things that you're going to want to monitor and want to pay attention to, because they are going to change. Andrea, anything you want to say about the details and the nothing?
Yeah, I think the thing is don't feel like you have to narrow in and find your nothing and just like totally get rid of it out of your budget. And that it's like there, we don't want shame to be around the nothing, right? It's a learning experience. And just like when we were looking at expectations and reality, it's an ongoing process. You're not going to totally get rid of the nothing, because just like dialect sharing, and like the nothing changes over time. Like for a while, for me, having houseplants was the nothing. Now I'm at home a lot and houseplants mean a lot to me, and they are my details. It will shift over time, and it's not about totally getting rid of it. It's just about being more aware of where our money is going so that we can put more of our money towards the things that matter to us and that we remember, so that we're not putting as much into the nothing.
We're going to talk about this more in a second, but this is why we encourage people to track your spending, to look at the stuff that you're spending your money on, to try to determine what are in your details and what are in your nothing. Because something that's really important that y'all can do is look at your budget. If you can figure out what your details are and what your nothing are, you can spend more money on your details, on the things that matter to you, spend less money on the nothing, the things that don't matter to you, and be able to save for that last box here, what we call the S box. A lot of people like to call it a rainy day fund or an emergency fund, and that's cool too. But we call it a yes box or an opportunity box because, you know, they always like to tell us, just make enough money to get your head above water, right? Well, we're trying to get out of the water and get on our own boats. We want to see you guys succeed and be able to make more. So it's a yes box. If you know you want to save for emergencies first, the average emergency in America costs about $400, and 1 out of 2 Americans can't handle that. So if you want to make an emergency fund first, sure, get $400 in there. And then once you get that, double it. And then once you get that, choose something else that you would like to save for. It's okay if it starts out as an object, as a house, as a college that you want to go to, as a trip around the world, as 6 months off so you can create the new brilliant thing. That's fine. The thing that you're going to want to do is figure out how we turn that physical thing into a feeling, because the best savers, they save for a feeling. I'll tell a quick thing about me being an artist. When I was first saving for my yes box, I was trying to save for a really nice album. I wanted to go to a fancy studio, get the fancy engineers, cover art, all that beautiful stuff. And then I got a phone call from a friend who I'd recorded with in the Czech Republic, and they invited me to go on tour. He said, I want to go on tour with you throughout Europe. I want to go to France, I want to go to England, Germany, all these places. And I was like, that's great. Only thing that we need you to do, D, is we need you to pay for your first leg to Paris. And I said, sure. Well, tell me when that is, and I'll start saving for that too. They said, it's next week. I need you to buy your ticket today. So I took the money I was saving for a nice album, and instead I spent it on going on tour. And that tour did really well for me. I was able to get more money in those nightclubs in New York I was talking about, because I had gotten stuff out there, and they continued to play me out there. And then I learned that I wasn't actually saving my money for an album. I was saving my money to be in control of my creative career. So while it's probably going to start with an object, you're going to get a feeling there too. To do that, we have a little thing that we put together is what you want to save for and how much. Decide on a number, how much you need to save, and then decide how much you can save each month. Guess, make it up. That's part of the whole thing with money is we guess and assess. We try these things out and we change them as based on how we do. Remember, saving is also a feeling as well as an action. The number is going to be small at first, and that's going to feel kind of stupid, and that's okay. If you're putting away $5 a month, at the end of 4 months, you're going to look in there and that's what, either $20 or $40. And that's going to be like, that's like one meal. That's nothing. So it's going to feel difficult at first. It's okay. Feel the feelings. Keep on doing it. We have a plan for how to do that. Andrea, let's run through how to create the spending plan.
Yeah. So I know that one of the questions that we had ahead of time, and Maggie, thanks for gathering all those for us to like dig into today, was around how do you track your money and how do you create a plan for your money? So this is how you do that. 5 steps for creating a spending plan, which really practically is a budget. So start with your basics, write them down, add them up. Those are your bills. We need to know that number, but it's not the thing that we want to put all our focus on. And after you've calculated that number, how much your basics are, then look at how much you have left over. And that money is then going to go into those other boxes, right? So we want to prioritize savings. How much can we put towards the yes? And just like Dyalekt was just sharing, it's a guess. It's okay to guess and just figure it out as you go. And then look at your details. What do you want to put what do you want to put your money towards that matters to you? Is it sneakers? Is it video games? Is it time with friends? I really love little Minion figurines. Most people would say like, I don't need them, but they're in every room of my house. There's not that many, don't worry, like not hundreds and thousands, but just like, a handful here and there. And that's part of my details is I like having that stuff. So making
I could put my burrito menu. I could put my, sorry to interrupt. I could put my burrito medal on your minion.
You totally could. There's one in the kitchen. It would be like food and minion coming together in one. But I think like make space for that. We want to write it down. What are our details? And let's start to look at that and track money for it. And then tracking your spending, pick one thing at a time. Otherwise it can feel overwhelming. If you are trying to look at how much am I spending on food? How much am I spending on clothes? How much am I spending going out? All of that can feel like too much. And then we don't want to do any of it. So just pick one thing. Maybe it's like just looking at like, oh, I'm ordering out food more often than not. Just like Dyalekt was sharing with his Taco Bell. Oh man, 3 times at Taco Bell. I wonder what's going on there. And just track food and look at that. And then see if some of that money that you're spending on Taco Bell could go into something that matters to you more. Maybe it can move over to the details in a different spot.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, I was going to say to help you with that, we got a tool you guys can all download and access.
Yeah, see, you're going to say my transition. We're all on each other's transitions today. So yeah, we have an actual budget app. All of those things that you put together in your head, then you can put this down together, bit.ly/spending values. You can all download that. It's free. It's for everybody. If you have friends that just like ask for a paper copy of the one that you have, you can feel free to do that and just make it and share it. It's all good. Before we go into the Q&A, I want to ask you guys to thinking about, because we're talking about our careers, what are the things that you guys have been doing to make money? And what are the things that you like to do that haven't made you money? And the reason why we ask both of these things is I want you to focus on, some of you guys are going to be going to college soon. Some of you guys are early career. Some of you guys already have a little bit of a resume and some of you have some empty spaces. So what can we do right now so that we make sure we're able to make money with the skills that we have? And how can we use the things that we like to do to build towards the future? I know some of our skills and hobbies are things that we are trying to build towards a career, and other ones are ones where we're doing it because we like the skill, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, I know that many of us will go into arts majors and end up in tech fields because we're strong communicators, or start in tech fields and end up in arts type of places. Really, we go anywhere that we're needing to go. So this is how we make money in a simple 4-quadrant thing. You can get a job and work for somebody else. If you don't get a job and work for somebody else, you can make things. They can be physical, they can be digital, and these are objects that you have for sale. You can do a service where you take something off of somebody's back by making it so that they don't have to do it because they would be not as good as you at doing it or not as quick. Or you can teach them how to do a thing. And that's something where you don't need to be an expert, but your expertise, meaning that you are a few levels ahead of the people you're working with, can help you guide them into where they need to go. As someone who does teaching and who also does the doing, I think that it's really important for those of you who are doing anything to at least try out teaching or mentoring, because it shows you something that you didn't necessarily know that you love about the thing that you do. You may not end up being a teacher, but I think it's an awesome experience for everybody. So when we're thinking about the ways that our career can go, I want to think about what are the things that we like to do out of these things. Do you like making things? Do you like providing services to people? Do you like seeing it on someone's face when their eyes light up when they figured things out? And start leaning into those directions and testing those out as we begin our career.
And I think one thing that's really exciting too, if you're thinking about getting a job, whether it's your first job, your second job, your 15th job, when you're looking at getting a job, if we think about our boss or the organization working for as a client, that can help us learn skills where we could go on and do a service or make a thing or teach a thing on our own. So that if we think about jobs as being those stepping stones, we're moving from job to career, right? It's not just one thing we're doing for right now, it's also building skills so that we're learning and earning. So
yeah, so now we'd like to open it up to some questions if you guys have, and if you have questions about these specific things, we can go deeper into it. And if you have questions about stuff that's a little bit more broad in terms of our money, we're good with that too.
Thank you guys so much. I feel like I'm learning things too. I'm thinking about what my details and my yes are, so that's helpful. So we have quite a few questions. We've got quite a few questions about handling money specifically, and also some questions about your career pathways. But let's start out with some of the money questions. We have someone from Hanak asking how we should organize our money, I guess, meaning like, do you have specific tools you recommend? I know you mentioned like a paper and pen pencil app, but is there an app that you recommend these days?
Yes. Andrew, can you talk us through? I'm just going to try to see if I can pull them up.
Yeah, if you want to grab it. So there's a couple different apps that are free and available. So one is Mint that Dyalekt mentioned. Mint, you do have to already have online checking or online banking in order to link to it. And their catchphrase is really just like, it's an app for all your accounts. They will create beautiful color-coded charts for you to see where's all your money going. They'll send you notifications, and they'll help you really think about where's your savings, where is your spending. And to do that, it's categorizing. So you have to go in the first few times and help them categorize by saying like, oh, this is for my pets. This is for my rent. And then it will start to auto track that over time. Similarly, Clarity Money does that as well. Clarity doesn't have as many bells and whistles. So I think that for some of us that feel overwhelmed by all the notifications with Mint, Clarity can be really nice. For Clarity, you do also already have to have online banking. So the third one that we like to toss out there is for anyone that doesn't already have online checking or banking. This can work for anyone. There's also no age limit for it. It's Fudget. It's a really simple app where when you download it, you're manually entering in what you spend your money on, and then it's keeping a running tab for you. So it's like a running record, which is really nice. And it gives you a little bit different kind of control rather than it automatically doing it for you. You're entering in your receipts. So all three of these are freely available and can be used to help you track your money, as well as that spreadsheet that we showed. You can also do that. I'm a little bit old school in that way. I love my color-coded spreadsheet. So I actually use the spending value spreadsheet that you see there and add in different ones myself.
Yeah, I mean, the spending values one is a little bit more low tech in that, it'll add things up for you, but doesn't have all of the other stuff. Just to let you know, disclaimer, we're not paid by any of these apps to mention them or shout them out. And yes, Mint is owned by Intuit. They are the people who own TurboTax. And yes, they are the company that continuously lobbies to make our taxes more difficult. Just put that out there. But the app is free, and it wasn't made by them. They just bought it because, they knew it was good.
Yes.
All right, thank you. There are a few questions about, like, is investing really a good thing to do, and how do you invest your money?
That's a great question.
Okay, that's good. No, that's good. That's really good. So investing, yes, and we're talking about specifically in the stock market. There are a lot of other types of investments that you can be making, real estate, commodities, things like that. But we're not going to get into those because that's way more of a deep dive. Let's talk about the stock market. It is a good thing, but this is, I would like to say two things about it. One, it's not the lottery. There is not a situation where you're going to be looking at, I'm going to buy one of this brand new stock and then hope that it shoots the moon and then becomes a big thing. A great thing I learned about investing is that investing is not how you create wealth. Investing is how you maintain and grow your wealth. So it generally already takes a good bit of loot to change the amount of money that you have in investing, but it doesn't mean that you can't get started in investing. Similarly to Mint and Clarity Money, there is an app called Acorns. And you think you need to be 18 for that. I'm pretty sure. You're right. Yeah, you need to be 18 for that. But very similar to a lot of saving apps, it will take little bits off the purchases you make. If you buy something for $4.50, it will take that 50 cents off of the dollar and put this into the Acorns account. Every time it reaches $5, it will put you into a fully diversified ETF. That's an exchange traded fund. Funds are big groupings of stocks. The big thing about stocks and whether they're a good thing for you or a bad thing for you, one, fundamentally, stocks and having publicly trading companies, it's perfectly fine if you feel like morally that they're a bad thing, because when you look at the big companies on the S&P 500, that's the Standard & Poor's 500, that's the collection of the 500 biggest stocks that are being sold. And if you look at that and you see a lot of companies that you don't like, a lot of companies that do harmful things, they're going to be there. The thing about investing in the stock market isn't necessarily just betting on companies that we dislike. It's basically betting on the American economy. When people talk about diversification and how you want your stocks to be diversified, that doesn't mean that you want to have 5 stocks or even 50 stocks or even 100 stocks. Thousands upon thousands of stocks are what counts as a fully diversified portfolio. You're going to want like 10,000 stocks. And in that, you're not really looking to try to pick some loopholes and beat the market. What you're betting on is the American economy. And that means if all 10,000 of your stocks fall and all those companies fall apart, you have bigger problems to worry about. We're just fighting in the streets and it's anarchy. It's the purge out there.
And on that, not the purge, but the investing in thousands and thousands of stocks, there is actually a lot of apps and resources now where they call them robo-advisors, where they're taking it out of your hands. So you're not individually sitting there picking stocks and going on and doing the trading. It's diversifying for you. There's groups like Betterment or Wealthfront, where they get a small percentage for managing the fund for you, and they're just investing it across thousands of different things. So you have a share of a stock along with thousands and thousands of other people. And with those, and with the stock market in general, just to echo what Dyalect's saying, it's not about picking the right one and having it be the winner. I think that's the thing that so many of us, like if we've played any of those like stock market style games, you're like, oh, I got this one. And now like, yay, like Monopoly style. But it's not really like that. It's about having time in the market. It's not about timing. And with that time in, it's over longevity. You're riding out the economy so that over time, your money grows by being invested in thousands of stocks.
Great, thank you. And guys, I know this is a lot of information, so I just want to remind you that this is going to remain on YouTube for at least a while. So if you want to like come back and be like, what did they say about stocks? Like this is here for you. You can rewatch this and come back to this. All right, so there is another question, and this is a good one because this got me my first year in college, which I know is soon for a lot of you guys, which is a credit card worth it?
Ooh,
so you want to be careful with this. Yeah.
That's really important. I similarly, the credit card got me my first year in college too, which I would start by saying credit cards are not good or bad, and debt is not good or bad. It's about you're leveraging your time, right? You're getting time and you're being able to take care of something now, but you're paying for that later. So that asking, is it worth it? I think that's a personal values question. So we can answer it to the point of being aware of the fine print of credit cards and how much the costs can add up to be. But whether it's worth it or not is going to depend on your individual situation and what you're using that credit card to take care of. When I was a freshman in college, my dad got sick and went to the hospital, and my family had extra bills to take care of. And I did not have money at 20 years old at the time to help out, but I wanted to help out and I used a credit card to do it. I would not take back that decision. It mattered to me, and I felt like I was able to help in a situation where that was really great. But it also added a lot of stress because credit cards have high interest rates. And especially when you're younger, sometimes those interest rates can get up to 25%. And every month those fees add up. And if you miss a payment, that's going to hurt your credit. So when you ask whether it's worth it or not, like that is a personal decision. But we want to make sure whenever you're looking at credit cards, you go into it with your eyes open so you know what those fees are going to look like and how that's going to add up over time.
Yeah, and I want to talk real quick about like the proactive part of it, because I really appreciate you sharing the story about like when you needed to use it and it was something that was able to hold you down. But on a practical tip, when you don't have a need for it, you can get a credit card to start building positive credit for your credit score. And when that comes down to like timing, because like we were just saying about like with the stock market and all, you do want to create a timetable for when you want to invest and when you want to get that money out. And similarly, you want to start creating a timetable for when you're going to want to start getting the things that you need good credit for. And to let you guys know, you not only need good credit to be able to get a loan on a house or a large loan on a car or other types of loans, or to be able to get good rates on those loans, you're also going to need good credit to get a job. A lot of employers look at your credit score. You're going to need good credit to have good car insurance if you're driving a car, because if you have a low credit score, people will charge way more. And there are a lot of other insidious fees that can go along with not having a good credit score. So one of the things a credit card can do for you is start building positive credit. So that's something that you have in an option. I'm going to throw up here real quickly, and I'll just leave it up. We won't talk through it, but I want to we'll answer the other questions. I want to show you the different parts that go into a credit score. It's broken up as these 5 parts: your payment history, the amount that you owe, the amount of new credit you have, your credit history, your average credit history, and the amount of credit that you have in use. All of these things are things that build up your credit score. There are a number of things that are being created right now, like Experian Plus and all this other new stuff that can help you positively build your credit. But right now, the credit score system is kind of punitive. Basically, you can get a credit score by missing a payment. But if you haven't missed a payment, but you haven't gotten a loan yet, you have 0 credit and no credit score and haven't started in the game. So also create a timeline for yourself, decide when you want to get in the credit game to have a credit score, and maybe decide then to get a credit card and closely monitor the spending that you do on it.
Yeah, and we've had youth that have come through our programs where you get your first credit card and you just put a subscription on it, like Hulu or Netflix, and you have it paid off every month. So you're not getting any interest, you're not being charged any extra fees, and you're just building credit with it because you're making those payments on time and you are showing that you're using credit, you're part of the credit game.
Yeah, and if you do that, please, if you can, set your bill to auto pay so that it automatically takes care of it. That's one thing that we're really big on too.
I'm just going to add to that. When you turn 18, and I think they've put some restrictions against this, but credit cards still do try to, like, as soon as you turn 18, credit card companies they want to be your first credit card experience, because they know that a lot of young people like don't know how it works, and that they're going to make a lot of money off of you not knowing how it works. Mm-hmm. So like when I was in college, turned 18, I signed up for the first one because they were offering a free t-shirt. And then I got in a bike accident and it cost me a lot of money, and I just didn't have much money to pay it off, and I ended up getting a terrible credit score and having a lot happen. And actually Dyalekt and his wife really helped me just by doing exactly that, like putting a few regular things on it and auto paying it. Before too long, I had like a great credit score, which I had to show to move into my apartment. So like having a good credit score will help you get places.
That's really great. Hey, Maggie, can I interrupt real quick too? Is also on that tip, as you were saying, don't chase points, by the way. Yeah. Those reward points that you get, it's all good if you get a card that has reward points in something that you like to use. You like flying around the world, which hopefully will happen for you soon again. Then it's fine to get the JetBlue card that has the JetBlue points, but don't get the card because you think that it's going to get you something extra. To just give a quick numbers about that, it takes about, what is it, like 10,000 points to get a flight on JetBlue, and 10,000 points, 25,000 points, excuse me, which is $25,000 to get like a $500 plane ticket. It's not really worth it unless you're just doing it anyway. So feel free to get points, just don't chase them.
Yeah, and one other last super pro tip to leave with, and we're happy to share these slides for anybody that wants access to those too. But when you're getting that first credit card, watch out for the ones that have an annual fee, because you're going to want to keep it open for your credit history to grow. And just like you have those credit cards that are like, here's the free t-shirt or the free backpack. They got me with the free backpack freshman year. But they can also have an annual fee like $75, and you don't want to have to then close that card later or be stuck paying the fee because you don't want it to hurt your credit to close it. So watch out for those annual fees.
We've got a really good question here from Ilana from Hannick asking, when do I know that it's appropriate to spend money on myself and for myself.
Yes. Okay, Andrew, do you want to start off? Should I start off? This is a really good one. 'Cause there's like,
I know we both took a pause on that. That's a deep question. That's a really good question. Sure, I'll kick it off. I think when we're talking about the spending values, right, is that especially now things are stressful and things feel uncertain, it can be both hard and also really useful to make space in our spending for things that refuel us and that make us feel like us. So when it comes to knowing when's the right time to spend on yourself or for things that matter to you, I think that is an ongoing process of asking yourself, like checking in with yourself and where you're at. And it also, part of that spending on yourself is about what kind of spending too, right? Like it's hopefully going into your details and or maybe it's a tool. Maybe it's like getting a laptop because you want a new laptop so you have access to new tools and you can run new programs and do things. So I would say that the time to spend on yourself, that's an ongoing question to check in with yourself and to make space for taking care of yourself and taking care of the things that matter to you. Yeah, toss it to Dialekt. What do you think?
yes. Well, thank you also for starting first, because I was trying to put together in my head a little challenge that I want to give to you. I would like to challenge you to choose a week to spend on yourself first. I would like you to, when you decide that I need to spend, I'll just choose this one week. When I want to spend money on myself, I want you to do it. And I want you to ask yourself why. Every time you spend money on, ask yourself why you're doing this. Feel free to still spend it, even if your why is like, oh, I actually don't really know why. And talk to yourself about that. And after that week, I would like you to sit down with all the purchases you made. And I want you to ask yourself, which of those purchases felt good? Which of those purchases helped you make you feel like you? Whatever ones didn't, and especially if you don't even remember spending those things after that, cut them out. But the rest of them, feel free to spend those on you.
And I like what Andrea said about sort of finding the balance between like spending on you, like something to make yourself feel good, which is also valid, or like you have to spend money to make money. If you buy a laptop, it'll be easier for you to do all kinds of things that can eventually make you money. So like thinking about investing in yourself is sometimes spending money on yourself in a way that may pay off eventually, like buying a laptop or buying, art supplies or whatever it is that makes you like able to pursue money later.
And I would also like to say, when you're doing stuff like that, because I want to delineate spending on like just stuff for yourself that you think you like to do, and then the thing like investing in yourself, paying yourself first. We like the idea of paying yourself first. And what that really means is creating a savings account where you put away money like it's a bill. And I would want you, if you are thinking about, I might want to do art and I want to have some painting supplies, I would love to see you put, if not an actual separate savings account, but having an extra line item in your budgeting matrix that we put together where you have, here are my art supplies and here's a line item for my art supplies. And that's something that I'm paying for that is going to be developing me into the artist that I want to be, or into the creative I want to be, or developing the skills to make the ads that I want to start digitally creating, anything like that.
Yeah, I think on that too was really cool. I used to have a lot of like guilt around buying new books, and I've created space in my budget where I now have $45 every month that I created for my detail space that I'm just going to go online, usually on Amazon or like the Strand, and buy a new book for myself, or sometimes 2 or 3 books. And now I look forward to taking that time. I sit with some tea, I look through all the options, and I pick out a book that's going to help me in like continuing my learning. But I don't feel like I have to justify that spending on like, this is going to pay off in X, Y, and Z. I'm just like, no, this matters to me. And it's something that's important. So I've created space in my details for it to keep doing it.
Wow, $45. That's like almost half of a college textbook.
Yeah, but I don't buy a college.
So we have 2 questions that I think maybe can be sort of combined. One is like, and you touched on this a little bit, but how do you prepare for emergencies? And the other one being, how often should I check my budget? And like, is it a good idea to save excessively, even if you're on track? So I think those are kind of related as far as if you're on your budget, how much should you be saving for emergencies versus other things?
No, I get that. And that makes a lot of sense. So one thing that we like to talk about is a relationship with money. And we didn't bring this up here, but you can go to pocketschange.com/personality and take a personality test. We have a money personality profile that we've created, which helps you determine basically your threshold. This is the thing with dealing with money, is that we all, just like, we were saying about our spending, how we get worn out, and when we're worn out, that's when we don't make as good decisions. We also have a threshold for our ability to look at our money. And that's something that we're going to have to, I would ask you to check out the money personality test, but also to guess and assess within yourself to try out how long you can stand looking at your money. Because some people, they can stand looking at their money for a lot of time. And then some folks, after a while, their eyes become glossy and it doesn't make sense anymore. That being said, a lot of people who do look at their money, that doesn't mean that they're going to be able to make a decision. Sometimes looking at it too much causes analysis paralysis, because you're like, I've got this here, what do I do? And when it comes to excessive saving beyond when you feel like you're already on track, I think that it's fine if you're saving beyond the amount of money that you were planning to save. But I want to make sure, like we were talking about earlier, that you are taking care of yourself, that you're not just living Spartanly, unless that's, how you like to be living, that you're not denying yourself the things that you need. Because I think that, and we've seen in many cases, when you deny yourself the things that make you feel like you don't maintain that savings habit, and you're more likely to end up in a situation where you splurge and end up spending the money that you didn't want to spend.
So you mentioned the money personalities test. What is that? Where do they find that?
Yes. Again, it's pocketschange.com/personality. I can put that in chat. I don't know if I can throw that in there.
Yeah, we'll put it in the chat. Pocketschange.com/personality or personalities?
Personality, just one.
Personality.
You can also find it when you go to our website. It's under Toolkit, along with the spending values that we talked about. You have access to all that too.
Yeah, and well, on pocketschange.com, there's a lot of good resources, I know. So
on that, one thing I would also say, when it comes to how often to check your money, and the same way that Dyalekt was sharing, it's going to vary. Some people like doing a quick check every day, and it's just that like certainty of like, oh, I know what my balance is, like, or getting a text update and like, your bank let me know. Like, that to me is too much. Like, I look at mine maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks. It's going to depend on your personality. So that's why that's a good starting point. And that's also part of guessing and assessing, is figuring that out for yourself. If you're looking at it once a week feels like too much, maybe make it every 2 weeks. It's figuring out what that tracking feels like for you.
Great. Yeah. And then also, just as a point of clarity, we talked about a credit score, but can you define credit score?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So your credit score is, it's a weird thing, and it comes from a weird place. We don't have time to get in all the origins and all, but your credit score is like what I like to call it your adult permanent record. It's a number that is put together based on your purchases, your loans that you've taken out, your responsibility of your spending money, the times that you have paid late, or the times that you have failed to make payments on things. That is put together as a number that is between 350 and 850, that determines your ability to be eligible for loans, and or your eligibility for certain rates on loans. And it also people can look at your credit score to determine whether or not to give you good rates for car insurance, to give you jobs, and even to rent out your apartment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And your credit score comes from the things that are being tracked on your credit report. So your credit report is all of those things, like how many loans you have open, do you have a car payment, those things.
If you want to see your credit report, you want to go to annualcreditreport.com. It was once a year that you could look at it for free, but I know during COVID they gave it, they changed it to once a week. I'm not sure if is that still going on? I haven't checked back in a couple of weeks. Okay, that is still going on. So yeah, you can check that once a week to look at your report. The report is different from the score that you will see. There are 3 different credit reporting bureaus, and you may have heard some of them because of the leaks. TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. The big Equifax breach lost a lot of data. I can't quite tell you why there are 3 different companies, but there are 3 different companies. They have different people reporting to them differently, so you need to look at all 3 of them and look at the scores that they give, because you don't know which one someone is going to be using to determine whether or not they want to give you money.
Yeah, and we would usually suggest you start looking at that at 16, even though you probably won't have anything on your credit report, but it just starts to build that habit of checking your credit report consistently to see if there's any misinformation on there that you need to get off.
Yeah, I mean, especially as we get in the more digital age, there's more fraud that pops up. So you just want to keep checking for that.
Yeah, and that's once you get a credit card, but it's just, yeah. You won't have a credit score yet, probably, but
Well, hopefully that's the thing.
Yeah.
We're hoping that you don't have a credit score yet. But why we ask people to check out is that there are people who are frauding. Oftentimes, more often than not, it tends to be a relative or close family member who has access to your social security information. But there are people who are hacking and doing it anonymously too. So it's just something to check out and make sure that no negative credit has been put on your account.
Yeah.
And so I know there's people ask if or there's like I've heard before that your credit score and report can change when you check it. Like, does checking your credit report hurt your credit report?
This is one of the big myths out there. So when we talk about how people want to tell you things so that you actually can't get your money, this is one of the big ones. I think that the reason this myth has been proliferated is so that we won't ask these questions. When you check your credit score does not go down. When a landlord or prospective landlord checks your credit score does not go down. The only time your credit score goes down is when someone checks your credit with the intention of loaning you money.
Mm-hmm.
If you're trying to get a mortgage, if you're trying to get a car loan, if you're trying to get a credit card, if there is an intention to loan you money, then that credit check, it's called a hard hit or a hard inquiry. That will lower your credit score temporarily. It will come back up. But when you yourself are checking your credit, or when someone who is not going to be loaning you money checks your credit score does not go down. That's called a soft inquiry or soft hit. Share that widely.
Thank you. That's helpful. So we have so little time left, and there's so many questions about your career paths and yourselves that we haven't even gotten to. But there is this last money question that I want to ask, and it's a hard one. How do we pay for college?
Yeah, that's great. So, I mean, again, this depends on timeline and horizon. If you are right about to start paying for college, there are like a lot of drastic stuff where you're like, going to have to look at loans and scholarships. I think one thing that you want to pay attention to are, if you are getting scholarship and or loans, what are the details? What are the requirements? How do they renew? Do they renew? Because I know I remember I got a bunch of scholarships for my freshman year, and I didn't have a conversation about them. And I thought that they would continue on into sophomore year. And they were like, no, we just gave you seed money. Figure it out on your own from there. And I was like, oh, I don't know where to get that money from.
Yeah, I would also say, coming back to when we were talking about that earning matrix and the like, do a service, make a thing, teach a thing. One of the things that helped me get through college and pay for college is having side jobs and doing things that were a way to tap into my personal interests and start to build a network. So it gave me a chance to make money, but also to experiment with the things that I enjoyed doing and to start to build connections in different careers. So for instance, I, as a side interest, really like doing makeup. And so I started doing makeup for friends. And then I started doing some like makeup shows and things like that around, and it helped me pay for school. So sometimes those things that, might just be a side interest can be a way to make extra money and help you pay for the day-to-day when it comes to school.
Yeah. And, when it comes to all of those things, if you are taking side jobs to pay for those things and you're trying to whittle it down to as little as possible, one thing I would say to not be afraid of is community colleges to get a lot of your basics. There are a lot of great community colleges around the country that can take care of a number of your credits before you go and get the things that are part of your major at another school. And that's something that I think a lot of people, I know in my generation, that was like, oh, you're doing it because you're not good enough. And that was like the brand name thing of college. It's all good to go to a brand name college. It's all good to go to a college because there are certain professors there that you really want to work with. But remember, for your requisite stuff, you can always get that done cheaper.
Yeah. And the last thing I would share on that too is start to make connections with financial aid and start to get to know, like, if you have a specific school that you're looking at that you're having conversations with already, see what resources they have available to help you pay for school. How are they going to work with you as a learning partner?
Over communication is key.
Yeah.
Be pleasantly persistent. In fact, you know what? No, forget it. Just be annoying. Bother them, because their whole thing is they want to make sure that you're able to go to college and be able to take care of stuff. They want to create that transaction. So why don't you make it happen for yourself too? A lot of these things, when it comes to these financial systems, right? I know that some folks might be like, I don't want to get down with this investing, or this the credit score, or even this college, because of this corruptness and there's these bad things. And I want to let y'all know that, like, all the bad things that these big companies are doing, they're already doing it, and they're already taking advantage of you. So why don't you figure out a way to get yourself in there and take advantage of it too, so that you can make the change that you want?
Yeah.
Right. There are also tons of resources for finding scholarships online. So I recommend like scholarships and grants, as well as like look into if your school has work study, because that can help out a lot too. But yeah, thank you. This has been a lot of helpful information. And of course, loans, different kinds of loans.
Yeah. On that note, if you're looking at loans, making sure to prioritize and talk to your financial aid about federal loans before you start looking at private loans. Private loans have much higher interest rate and a lot less flexibility when it comes to repayment and to repayment programs.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to say that before we went to federal versus private. Please look at it and pay attention to make sure, because it's very different, especially when it comes to forgiveness and being paid back.
Yeah. Great. And individual schools have different scholarships too. So if you're looking into a specific school, like make sure you like research like what are all the specific scholarships that they have, because it differs from place to place.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was also going to say, remember that fraternities and also interest groups have scholarships as well.
Yeah, a lot of times too, as you're starting to do like open interviews or just like the different mixers and getting to know people at the school, tap into those alumni networks the same way you would ask about like, what's this program you're going into? Ask about how they paid for college, have those money conversations, make new money buddies, because you might find out about scholarships that aren't widely publicized for people that have gone through the program before you and can give you tips on it.
Thank you guys so much. We're really close to the end, and there are lots of questions we didn't even get to, of course. Again, this video will remain online. So someone asked, you said they came late and how can they catch up? This video, you can rewatch this video. It's here for you to watch. And are those, you said the slides could be shareable. Are those easily shareable, or should we, could it be something where, are you comfortable sharing your emails, you said?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, share our emails. We're available by email. My wife and I, who's the third member of the founders of Pockets Change, or the second founder of Pockets Change with Andrea, she and I host a podcast on Fridays that you can see on Instagram Live, where we answer a lot of these questions too. It's called Brunch and Budget. We're actually off this Friday, but we'll be around every other Friday. We are available. If you email us, we're down to answer questions. If you hit us up on social, any of those kind of things, we're down to do more of these live things too, because we love to rock with you. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Do you have a slide with your email addresses just for the visual folks? and so people can like, see this.
Yeah, let me pull that up.
Toss that up. And then also, if you go on to pocketschange.com, you'll see that under our programs, we have Summer Bridge on there. If you're interested in checking out those 10 money challenges, you can definitely sign up for those. Reach out to us by email and we'll get you going.
Yeah, so throw this up here.
This is us.
Andrea at pocketschange.com and dyalekt@dyalekt.com. That's a great email address. Well, thank you guys so much. There's like a wealth of information, no pun intended, I guess pun intended, but I've learned a lot. This is a ton of information and a lot of great resources that you've shared, from the money personality quiz to the spending values, to just pocketschange.com in general. So thank you for being so generous with your time and being willing to share your email addresses and answer so many questions. We really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Peace.
All right, thanks everyone. We'll be back next week with our final career AMA of the summer.
Awesome.
All right, thanks everyone.